Watching the World Report on NewsX World. On that note, let's take a look at the headlines this hour. Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi has rolled out the red carpet for Russian President Vladimir Putin as all eyes are trained on the 23rd Annual India-Russia Summit. Deepening defense cooperation, civil nuclear ties and augmenting trade to $100 billion by 2030 are all on the agenda. The US military has informed that 4 men have been killed in a strike on a suspected drug vessel in international waters of the Eastern Pacific. Officials have stated that the vessel carried illicit narcotics along a known trafficking route. Protesters were removed from the New Orleans City Council meeting for opposing an ICE immigration crackdown as federal agents target the city in broader operations by the Trump administration against illegal immigrants. U.S. authorities searched the home of a man in Virginia accused of planting 2 pipe bombs in Washington, D.C. on the eve of the January 6th Capitol riots. The suspect has been identified as 30-year-old Brian Cole. China has urged restraint as U.S. military activity near Venezuela continues to escalate, backing Maduro's sovereignty and opposing foreign interference. Meanwhile, Venezuelan president has highlighted China's support amid growing U.S. pressure, thanking Beijing. U.S. President Donald Trump has hosted Rwanda's Paul Kagame and DRC's Felix Tshisekedi in Washington to sign a peace agreement aimed at ending conflict in the region. Trump has called the deal a great miracle, though clashes continue on the ground in Kivu. An Israeli delegation has traveled to Cairo to negotiate the return of the last hostage in Gaza under the U.S. brokered ceasefire. Following the recent return of a Thai worker's remains, authorities are pressing to secure the release of Officer Ran Wheelie. Well, viewers, those are the headlines, and we're tracking some breaking updates from New Delhi. We're learning that the Delhi airport has issued an advisory as operational disruptions continue. The airport has stated that passengers should expect delays and check flight status before traveling itself. Indigo Airlines has cancelled 225 flights amid ongoing issues affecting travelers across the city and beyond. Airport authorities have stated that they're working to restore normal operations as quickly as possible, although no exact timeline has been provided. Travelers are advised to arrive early, stay updated on flight information, and prepare for possible changes. We're tracking some other crucial developments from India's national capital. Russian President Vladimir Putin will hold talks with Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi very shortly, aiming to boost trade with the top buyer of Russia's arms and seaborne oil as Western sanctions squeeze decade-old ties. Now, Modi and Putin are also expected to discuss other topics, including labor and civil nuclear energy, with both sides expected to announce new agreements. Reportedly, there are 25 agreements on the anvil. Meanwhile, ahead of their talks, Putin has, in fact, questioned the United States for slapping punitive sanctions on India for buying Russian oil. He stated that the U.S. itself buys nuclear fuel from Russia. Putin has further questioned why the U.S. has the right to buy Russian energy supplies and India does not. Meanwhile, joining us on the broadcast are 2 very special guests, Ms. Shruti Dasgupta, International Affairs expert, and Professor Veselin Popovsky. I'd like to go across to Ms. Dasgupta first. Of course, a lot regarding defense, civil nuclear cooperation, augmenting trade ties, and reducing the trade deficit in particular are on the cards. Reportedly, there are about 25 agreements to be signed. What are your big ticket expectations?
Well, some of my expectations are already showing up on ground, one of which is the Russia Education Agency being set up, which means there is a mutual recognition of qualification, setting up of industries, tech, R&D development hubs, and all of that coming to fruition. The other is the labor pact that is being signed, which is showing that both the nations are willing to address the loopholes that have shown up in the past few months, where migrant labor was facing issues. So the labor pact has been enforced, which would help skilled labor find work in Russia, as well as Russians being able to find educated, qualified individuals in India to fulfill their requirements. So these are a few of those expectations that I see already coming into fruition. Beyond that, we've talked about agricultural developments, where our Indian agricultural minister Shivraj Chauhan has met with his counterpart and has talked about R&D in agricultural collaboration, protection of farmer rights, and all of that has been discussed. So beyond the defense, beyond the normal trade of crude oil, beyond the nuclear, there are other facets of this developing partnership as a special and privileged partner that Russia and India are willing to get into on the table, iron out the finer details and find the common ground so that there can be a longer, prosperous development of the relationship that has already proven its mettle over the past 25 years.
Indeed, ma'am. Requesting you to stay on with us. I'd like to rope in Professor Popovsky into the discussion. Interesting development because, you know, eyebrows are being raised, particularly in the United States of America. The Trump administration is undoubtedly viewing this very closely. In light of sanctions on both India and Russia, even as efforts to ensure that a peace deal is brought about. The timing of this meeting is very interesting. There was also, interestingly, a delegation from Lockheed Martin, the American defense manufacturers, that had met with India's Commerce Minister yesterday, Piyush Goyal. How do you think India will then balance its interests with Russia on one hand, which, as Ms. Dasgupta has pointed out, has been a time-tested partner, and also its growing ties with the West, particularly the strategic partnership with the United States?
Yes, I think India will balance very well, and it's proven in the past the same. The relationship between Russia and India developed very, very well over many years. And this is an annual summit, by the way. There is no problem with the timing, because until 2021, every single December, Vladimir Putin was in Delhi around this time. So there is no surprise he's coming back. There was a break of 4 years, by the way. And now that's probably also explains the expectations that also my colleague here mentioned. There will be 25 signatures, which is expected over 4 years, those to accumulate in various fields, not only crude oil and energy, not only in defense, but also in cultural exchanges, in education and everything else. India does balance very well. And as you mentioned yesterday, there was a United States senior delegation on also US is a big weapon supplier as well, no doubt. Not only Russia supply India with weapons. And actually, I think Russia reduced the numbers, whereas United States increases its interest to sell more weapons to India. And I must say they are a much more reliable partner, having in mind the war in Ukraine, having in mind the economy difficulties in Russia, including because of the sanctions, because of the banking problems that Russia may face. Over time, India should diversify its imports, and it does. It's already diversified a lot, its imports anyway.
Yes, we are on track to diversifying our energy imports. This was highlighted by Union Minister Hardeep Singh Puri, who's looking into this department. I request you, Professor Popovsky, to stay on with us. We're tracking some further updates as far as this visit is concerned. We're learning that President Putin has stated that Russia should engage and not obstruct the peace talks that the US is pushing for as far as its war with Ukraine is concerned. Putin has also stated that there are some proposals in the US plan to end the war that are unacceptable to the Kremlin. He has stated that the proposals discussed at the Kremlin meeting were based on earlier discussions between Russia and the United States of America. He's added that his 5-hour talks with US Special Envoy Steve Witkoff and Trump's advisor Jared Kushner, his son-in-law as well, they were necessary and useful, but also that the work is quite difficult at the moment. Putin has stated that the initial US 28-point peace proposal was trimmed down to 27 points and split into 4 packages. However, he has refused to elaborate on what Russia could accept or reject. Still with us on the broadcast is Ms. Dasgupta and Professor Veselin Popovsky. I'd like to rope you in, Professor Popovsky, first. Interesting statement by Vladimir Putin. To what extent should this be taken at face value or not?
I don't expect much progress there. Let's remember, Vladimir Putin is an aggressor. He's a war criminal. He's indicted by International Criminal Court. The red carpet meeting in Delhi doesn't reduce any of those accusations, and the world will continue making those accusations daily and weekly and reminding who is Vladimir Putin. And I don't see any peace process. Moreover, Putin over the last days threatened not only Europeans, but everybody else in the world with very aggressive language. He was talking about that he will take the rest of Donbass with military force, meaning no need to negotiate any peace. He rejected the renewed proposal by Witkoff and Kushner in coming to Moscow, spending 5 hours and zero progress on that. And he also threatened Europeans by saying that if Europe wants a war with Russia, we are ready to start today.
Yes.
All those statements make absolutely no chances for peace. And for that matter, isolating Russia in the peace agreement is probably what will follow up. Donald Trump will be definitely not happy with this development. So I wouldn't listen to anything Putin says about the war in Ukraine because he has a lot to answer himself.
Indeed. I'd like to go across to Ms. Dasgupta. Russia has drawn its red lines, but Donald Trump is still pushing to be the peace broker, to be the deal maker, to further solidify his image in that sense with his domestic voter base as well. But in your assessment, would any deal really come through without Ukraine being taken into confidence, without Ukraine's European allies also being taken into confidence?
Well, the European allies definitely need to sign off on any of the deals that are going to be had with Russia, because they are the ones who have frozen Russian assets. They are the ones who are supplying a large amount of their budget portions to arm Ukraine against Russia. They are also the ones who are willing to put boots on the ground and are preparing for a larger war scale scenario. So the European counterparts will need to be part of the conversation. Zelensky, however, may not be part of the conversation depending on the elections that will happen in Ukraine, hopefully in the next few months. So Zelensky's position is going to be contingent on the fact whether he's relevant or not. There are definitely accusations of corruption, not just in the people around him, but of Zelensky himself, which may not see light later as time progresses and peace comes to Europe. So that is going to be part of a larger conversation. Ukraine, of course, has to be part of the peace conversation because they are the ones who have faced off the aggression. They are the ones who have paid the price in blood as well as economy. So keeping Ukraine out of the conversation would never be a practical option because they are the ones who are actually going to have to sign off on the peace deal themselves. USA is indispensable to the conversation. Without USA, I do not think any form of peace can actually be implemented in this war. So Trump does play a vital role despite how he tends to project it. And unfortunately for him, the way he projects it kind of minimizes the role USA actually has to play in ensuring that peace comes to Europe. But USA as a nation is important to the peace that may not come through. So all these people are stakeholders. They have to have a good conversation. They have to come with open minds and open hearts, as well as a full account of the blood as well as money lost in this entire conflict, which is now probably in a few months going to enter into its fourth year.
Absolutely. Interesting point there about Donald Trump because, we did see quite a few rants being made on his Truth Social platform, public statements, all while efforts were underway behind the scenes with US officials working through back channels in order to get in touch with the Russians and then this plan suddenly came out of the blue. I'd like to thank both Professor Popovsky as well as Ms. Dasgupta for taking out time, sharing their analysis and insights with us. On that note, viewers, we're shifting focus away from the war towards what's taking place within the United States of America. We're learning that the FBI has arrested 30-year-old Brian Cole Jr. from Woodbridge in Virginia for planting 2 pipe bombs in Washington, D.C. the night before the January 6, 2021 Capitol riots. The bombs were placed outside the Democratic and Republican Party headquarters near the Capitol. Police safely deactivated the devices before they could explode. Now, Cole faces charges of using an explosive device and attempted malicious destruction. The arrest follows a lengthy investigation that included a $500,000 reward and new efforts to analyze evidence. Attorney General Pam Bondi has confirmed the arrest. Let's listen in to what she had to say.
As you all know now, early this morning, Brian Cole Jr. was arrested and charged with placing the pipe bombs at the RNC and the DNC on January 5th, 2021. He has been charged with violating 18 U.S.C. 844, which is use of an explosive device. This investigation is ongoing. As we speak, search warrants are being executed, and there could be more charges to come.
Joining us on the broadcast now is Mr. Matthew Wadham, American journalist and author from Washington, D.C. Thank you so much for taking our time and speaking to us on NewsX World. At the outset, I want to understand, have there been any revelations regarding the motives of this individual? What is your assessment? Because one of the charges is attempted malicious destruction. These bombs were placed in both the Democratic as well as the Republican Party offices. And it does seem that more charges could be mounted as indicated by the Attorney General.
It seems that he was an equal opportunity terrorist. But I don't know that there have been any accusations leveled yet about what his objective was, whether it was to hurt the two parties or just to cause chaos. I don't think they have developed that information yet, or if he was put up to this by a foreign power. We really don't. Well, maybe someone knows at the FBI, but they haven't told the public yet. And so we're just going to have to wait to see what happens there. I'm amazed that it took them 5 years to do this, and they apparently tracked the man down by cell phone records, video footage, and credit card transactions. And it's amazing that it took them that long to track down this bomber. So I'm glad that they got a suspect, but I don't think anyone should be patting the FBI on the back for a job well done at this point.
Indeed. And what do you make of the timing that the bombs were placed right before the January 6th riots that had taken place at the Capitol? Could his intentions have been to sow even further chaos?
Well, no one knew on January 5th, except for, the select few rioters, would-be rioters, that there was going to be a riot on on January 6, 2021. So that seems unlikely. However, given the closeness of the given the contentiousness of the election and the fact that Donald Trump's Republican Party was contesting the presidential vote, and the bombs were set to go off on, the bombs were discovered, the plot was discovered January 5th, the day before Congress was to vote to certify the election. Suggests that maybe the would-be bomber wanted to inject chaos into the American electoral system, and that's something that that you would expect Antifa to do. The professed anti-fascist terrorists, and that's the sort of thing that you would think they would favor. But I don't know if there's been any connection between this 30 or 31-year-old man and Antifa. We don't know why he did it, but the timing of the plot is not conclusive, but it is suspicious.
All right, so requesting you to stay on with us. We're tracking some breaking developments in the meantime. We're learning that Russian President Vladimir Putin has received a 21-gun ceremonial welcome at the Rashtrapati Bhavan in New Delhi. He has arrived in his armored Aurus Senate limousine, often called the rolling bunker, and was greeted by top Indian officials. If there's some audio, let's in fact dip in and listen in.
श्रीमान अंतर सेना सम्मान गार्ड निरीक्षण के लिए हाजिर है।
President Vladimir Putin in New Delhi. Of course, I'll take you viewers through what exactly is transpiring right now. The visuals that you can see on your screens, there's a tri-services ceremonial welcome that's just taken place, as is done for heads of state at the Rashtrapati Bhavan, that is the residence of the Indian president. Meanwhile, we've just heard the national anthems of Russia and India as well. 21 gun salute has also taken place. That's not all. You can of course also see, apart from Putin, India's president Draupadi Murmu as well as Prime Minister Narendra Modi. They're of course there. This event that we've just witnessed marks the start of President Putin's high-profile visit to India. It of course includes meetings with President Murmu and then the 23rd India-Russia summit with Prime Minister Modi. There are of course one-to-one conversations that have taken place. Yesterday we all saw those visuals of the Indian Prime Minister receiving the Russian President on the tarmac of the Palam Airport in New Delhi. Red carpet welcome over there. Both leaders incidentally rode the same car, a Toyota car this time around. Remember, they last shared Putin's high-profile limousine back at the SCO summit in Tianjin. So this was a carpool 2.0 that has taken place. Other engagements include the business forum that is going to take place shortly after this. Other cultural events are slated to take place as well. This particular ceremonial reception of course highlights the significance of India-Russia ties, especially amidst global diplomatic developments, including pressure that has been exerted by the United States by imposing sanctions on Russian oil companies, including Rosneft and Lukoil, as well as 50% sanctions on India for importing Russian oil. We're expecting 25 agreements to be signed, defense cooperation and furthering civil nuclear cooperation as well, augmenting trade to $100 billion target by 2030 that was set a while back, also reducing the deficit as far as trade is concerned. Remember, what sort of deals will materialize, that remains to be seen. There is going to be a press briefing this afternoon by both leaders, and apart from that, there'll be another press briefing by the Indian Ministry of External Affairs sometime around 4:30 p.m. today. But of course, also on agenda, as was highlighted by Dmitry Peskov, spokesperson for the Kremlin earlier, are the defense deals, whether these will materialize, whether Russia will offer S-400s, S-500s, or even the Su-57s. That remains to be seen. Of course, the elephant in the room, as I mentioned earlier, are the tariffs that were imposed by Donald Trump earlier itself. How exactly this has impacted ties remains to be seen, because India is diversifying its energy imports, as was highlighted by Union Minister Hardeep Singh Puri earlier, that we are looking at buying US oil as well. There, of course, dignitaries are being greeted. The Russian president engaging in a conversation with Indian President Draupadi Murmu. And also in frame is the Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi. We're expecting these discussions to continue inside the Rashtrapati Bhavan. You're seeing live visuals on your screens. The ceremonial tri-services welcome has just concluded. All right, viewers, we will continue to track these developments very, very closely. But in the meantime, we're shifting focus to more news coming in. We're now learning that the US military has stated that it killed 4 men in a strike on a suspected drug vessel in international waters of the Eastern Pacific. Now, officials say that intelligence has confirmed that the vessel was carrying illicit narcotics and moving along a known narco-trafficking route. The operation comes as the United States is stepping up efforts to disrupt drug shipments from Latin America to US soil. No further details have been provided on the type of narcotics or the vessel's origin as of now. The US military has stated that it is coordinating with regional partners to prevent further drug trafficking in the area. With us on the broadcast is Mr. Matthew Wadham, American journalist. Interesting development coming in. This also follows statements that have been made by Beijing. China has stated that it is working with several regional and international governments in order to prevent any military escalation in the Caribbean. And in the aftermath of that, we've seen this fresh strike take place. In your assessment, what do you make of the statement by China, the tone, the tenor adopted, the rhetoric that it is using at the moment? It did in fact say that it rejects, quote unquote, any pretext for US interference in Venezuela.
It sounds to me like this is a face-saving exercise by the People's Republic of China, because they don't have a great deal of pull in the Caribbean, in that part of the Western Hemisphere, and there's not much that they can actually do to prevent escalation of hostilities between the United States and, say Venezuela. All they can do is basically complain, and so I imagine they are, doing a little bit of saber rattling, just like the United States has been doing in recent days. But I question, what impact that would have in the real world, because they don't have a fleet in the Caribbean, and they don't have a lot of pull. They don't have a lot of authority there, and apart from being friendly with some of the governments in Latin America. So I don't think it's a serious. I don't think it means very much for China to be complaining, to be saying that it wants to limit U.S. military activities in the area.
We have discussed earlier how likely is it that the US is going to actively intervene. You pointed out that a land assault is unlikely. It's more or less going to be an aerial strike if and when, of course, depends on what decisions the Trump administration takes. But sticking to this particular statement, we do know that China has its own economic considerations as far as Venezuela is concerned, not just its investments, but the latter's oil reserves as well.
Right.
Yes. So in light of the US pressure in the Caribbean with the deployment of the Gerald R. Ford aircraft carrier, the F-35s as well, how likely is then a direct Chinese interference if US does strike Venezuela, or what we're seeing at the moment is just posturing?
I think it's just posturing. China doesn't have any capability to strike out at the United States in the Caribbean Sea. They're just trying to look tough. They're just trying to look relevant, and it's all just talk. China has an interest in protecting Venezuela because China buys a lot of oil, a lot of energy products from Venezuela, but it simply doesn't have the military wherewithal in the area to make good on any of its threats. So I doubt that the United States cares very much what China is saying.
All right, sir. With that, I would like to thank you for taking our time, of course, sharing your analysis and insights with our viewers. On that note, viewers, we're shifting focus to further updates coming in from the US. We're learning that US President Donald Trump has joined the leaders of Rwanda and the Democratic Republic of Congo in Washington to sign a peace deal aimed at ending one of Africa's longest conflicts. Now, the signing ceremony has come even as fresh fighting continues on the ground in the Kivu region, raising questions about the accord's effectiveness. After the ceremony, Trump has stated that it is a great miracle that has taken place. Of course, alongside Donald Trump was Rwandan President Paul Kagame and Congolese President Felix Tshisekedi. Both leaders welcomed the peace accord. Listen in to what transpired.
I think you're going to see very quickly, I think you're going to see things happen. This is something that was not doable, according to a lot of people, and not only is it doable, I think it's going to be a great miracle. These two gentlemen are leaders, they're great leaders, and they're going to prove that in the coming months and years. And I think you're going to see very immediate results. I have confidence that that's what's going to happen. Thank you very much, everybody.
Celebrate progress in the DRC. We must not look away from other crises. I want to ask you respectfully, Mr. President, that in your quest for global peace, to support efforts to resolve the humanitarian catastrophe in Sudan. I think
it's up to us in Africa, working with our partners to consolidate and expand this peace. There will be ups and downs on the road ahead. There is no doubt about it. Rwanda, I know, will not be found wanting. I can assure you of that.
All right, viewers, there, of course, you've seen what's transpired as far as this landmark peace deal is concerned. Remember, the eastern region of the Democratic Republic of Congo, that's the Kivu region, has seen decades worth of violence. Of course, as Trump has pointed out, this is nothing short of a miracle. On that note, viewers, due to paucity of time, it's a wrap on this bulletin. More news and updates on the other side. Stay tuned on NewsX World.